The Gory Days are here to stay, the 80s horror show. Take a stroll down memory's lane, it's time to start the show. The Gory Days, the Gory Days, the Gory Days, the Gory Days.
What's up, loyal listeners? You're listening to Rockin Ricky Rialto on the number 902. And if you saw our billboard on Main Street this afternoon, don't tell Amblin Entertainment we did not get permission to use the Indiana Jones font or logo or character design, so please keep it to yourselves. Just kidding. Don't change your dial. Don't freak out. It's okay, listeners. This is not Rockin Ricky Rialto. This is Kyle from the Gory Days, the show where we... The show where we take a stroll down memory lane to remember our favorite 80s horror movies from the 1980s and early 1990s. That opening bit will make a lot more sense when I introduce the movie that we picked this week, but before that, some Gory Days news. Like I mentioned on last week's episode, I think, or maybe 2 weeks ago, I went to Midsummer Scream, and as with the Hellraiser episode last week, we'll be sure to insert another fun interview that I got with a fine young woman that I met at Midsummer Scream. But besides that, I think that covers it for Gory Days news. Otherwise, I wanted to introduce our guest today, a regular around the Gory Days offices. Derek is here today to tell us all about the movie that we have, as well as to tell us a little bit about the fantastic construction that we have going on here at the offices. There's a lot going on here these days.
Hi. What?
Hi, Derek. Derek, you're here. Sorry about that. Welcome. Well, because Mike was on here last week, and he didn't notice the aquarium that we put in, so we had them take that out. It didn't make sense for the decor, and you can obviously hear the construction going on, so I'm just curious, were you the one heading this? I think I was the one that put you in charge.
I don't... Why would you think I'd want to play a character?
I'm not asking you to play a character.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm asking you to play a version
of
yourself.
Character. I don't want to do this.
I'm not asking you to play a character. I'm asking you to just
make up situations that aren't real based on a fucking character. That's a character.
No, it's like if when I come into you and I say, "Hey, I have a new business idea for this silly thing." It's just me, but I like making things up. That's why I like improv, because it's like you.
But I'm not doing an improv with you.
An improv. What's an improv?
That's where you create a fictional scenario, lay out groundwork, and then yes and me into the room.
All right, well, all pretense aside, Derek is here in the booth. Welcome.
Hi.
Wet Blanket of the Year. How was that award show, by the way? I missed it.
It was pretty drab.
Yeah.
Not a lot of turnout.
Who are the other contenders? Is there supposed to be a laugh track for every joke you have? Am I supposed to...
What jokes? I haven't made a joke.
That was a funny joke about the Wet Blanket Awards being pretty drab, and there weren't a lot of people.
I guess it was funny. No, you're the one who hammered me with a question right after it and then expected me to have a funny follow-up joke. I guess the first one wasn't funny enough.
And you're doing a great job. Derek Palmer is here. Welcome to the Gory Days. How you doing?
Okay, a little bit ill, but
yeah, you mentioned that you
okay.
had a little bit of a stomach ache. Is that from? You said that you were having some fun the other day, off mic.
Yeah, no, I really wanted to just talk about the fact that I feel a little hungover. That's
a shame.
That was...
Well, I mean, if that's on your mind, what's
me
up?
saying that I had a little bit of a stomach ache. I could have just said I was hungover if I wanted to say that.
I'm sorry about that. We don't have to reveal to the listeners your personal proclivities, but stomach ache. What's going on? Got the
I'm a little hungover.
Oh, okay. We're skipping to the little hungover part. Okay. You were partying?
Not really. Does it count as partying when you're just drinking at a bar?
No, we went to the Cork Lounge recently in Van Nuys just for a random night. It happened to be karaoke night, but we went just for drinking. Honestly, it was pretty nice.
Yeah, it's a low-key place.
If I could get them as a sponsor in here, that'd be pretty great. Had you ever been there before? I think we have.
Yeah, I had never been to the bar part of it. I mean, I've been to the restaurant part of it.
We went to the restaurant part of it together at some point. I'd been there earlier before for another podcast or meeting for a podcast, but then I also went there most recently for a meetup group for other podcasters in the area, and so that's a nice segue into this. On Wednesday of this week, I visited a meetup group It's an app. You know the Meetup group, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever used it? Or?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I know of the Meetup app.
Yeah, and you know the concept
I know
of
what
meeting
apps
up.
are. I've heard of apps and people.
You've heard of apps, you've heard of people, and you've heard of meeting them.
Yeah, I've got all the groundwork laid.
Blend all that together, and you get the Meetup app, which also is not a sponsor, but we'll see if we can fix that in the near future.
You don't need to keep saying it. No one thinks you have sponsors.
We don't have any sponsors, and no one thinks we have sponsors.
I know, but every time you say a brand, you like to clarify that they're not a sponsor, which is courteous, but
because I think it's important from a journalistic perspective. It's important to say that
now you are a journalist.
Well, if I'm going to mention a product, I don't want to make it sound like I'm endorsing it, or that like they paid to be on here. If I'm endorsing something, it's just from my own free will. But I want to make that clear from a journalistic standpoint.
I know. I'm just saying. I don't think a lot of people went, "Oh, I think they're sponsored."
You don't think? Okay, well, I'll continue, and we'll see if anybody gets confused. What was I talking about?
Your journalistic career.
Oh, that's right. I don't like to say that brands. I don't like to just mention brands without saying that they're not a sponsor on here. But why was I saying that? Walk us back a little bit. This is why we need a stenographer on this show. And you're just giving me this dead-eye stare. Listeners, he's just like looking at me with nothing in his eyes. Like, what do you want from me? There's nothing I want.
I fundamentally misunderstand the live show attitude, I guess. Is that it doesn't make any sense to me. You're railing against dead air, and it's like 30 seconds of nothing that you can just clip and have no dead air.
That's what else would I do? Okay, what are the podcasts you listen to that edit themselves so masterfully?
None, really. I listen to like two podcasts, and they don't edit that much.
What is this based on? Radio plays that you listen to? Where's this idea?
Why are you interviewing me?
I'm
have
asking
a conversation.
You.
This
is a conversation.
You're a human being. You know what a conversation is, right?
This is a conversation.
It's not waiting for me to say a thing and then asking a follow-up question on it every time.
That is a conversation.
I guess, but
that's me being interested in what you have to say,
but in a really artificial way.
Okay,
like
let's make this more organic.
The thing I'm saying is not like that interesting. You take it super seriously and try to expand on it.
Okay, so let's make this a conversation.
So no, I'm just talking about the fact that it's you do a live show kind of format.
Check this email. Okay, go ahead.
But there's really no need to adhere to it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to make this more like a real-world organic conversation. Isn't that what people do?
Did I
They're always
just
on their
complain
phones
that you were doing something wrong?
No,
Again,
you didn't, and you should have.
Apparently, you don't know what a conversation is, because a nice, pleasant person wouldn't complain. I can just wait and say my thing while you check your email.
The intern that made this coffee for me here at the Gory Days studios that absolutely exists was delicious.
The intern was delicious?
The intern that made...
because you did not have enough words in that sentence.
This coffee is delicious.
I've also eaten an intern.
Anyway, I'm going, okay, you know what? I'm going to tell a story like a conversation does.
Yeah,
okay?
that's
and
normal.
If you find something interesting, maybe you'll ask a follow-up question, and I won't bite your head off, but we'll find out. Here on the Gory Days, I went to the Cork Lounge on a meetup group, which is the Meetup app, which is not a sponsor, that was like basically a thing for everyone who could make it to the Cork Lounge and is interested in podcasting. And I was surprised to see that there was a range of people. There were people who already have their podcast. There were people who have ideas for a podcast. There were people who have ideas for a podcast. It was really fun, and I connected with a lot of them. I really look forward to maybe doing some trades and having them on this show and maybe me being a guest on their show. There was a person...
what was one of the shows?
Yeah, there was a person in particular that already has the show that's focused on gardening, all about gardening tips and tricks. And I don't know anything about gardening, nor do I really have an interest, but I thought about you when he mentioned like a gardening podcast, because he said that the important thing that brought a lot of his listeners in was the combination of his podcast and a blog. He said when he started his podcast, a lot of people were contacting him saying, "Ooh, like I wanted to write that down. I can't remember where you said that, blah, blah, blah." And so he made a blog that would have his videos and like time-stamped throughout, or his podcast, and it'd be like time-stamped throughout. So it's like 1:06 is where I talk about this. 4 minutes is where I talk about this. I think that's a great idea.
No, it's a pushback against one of the things I can't stand of the video generation, I guess, that we're in now, as far as like, it used to be if I search for a tutorial to do something, I'd get a website with a list of steps.
Yeah.
No, not anymore. Now I get a YouTube video with the list of steps, which it's like, I see why people prefer that. I'm obviously in the minority who doesn't want it.
Visual learners.
And so I like the idea that I can go and just get the text information rather than having to listen to an hour and a half of conversation. That's good. I mean, it's an informational blog. I don't really know how you do that with this podcast, but
I guess like if people, I was thinking about
you're not saying that it was applicable information. You're just telling me about the guy.
I'm just telling you about the guy. But I mean, his advice was I was telling him, I just started putting my podcasts on YouTube, which is what I'm doing. You can find them on youtube.com/the Gory Days. And he asked me, are you time separating those? And I said, no. And he said, you should. You should put 1 minute 6 is where the intro is. This is where the recap starts. This is where, things throughout so that people can click through.
Yeah, it's an okay idea, but bluntly, YouTube is not how people watch podcasts.
No, I thought that was strange.
It's a stupid waste of time,
but
actually.
his point was that it's just about spreading the net as wide as possible. You want to be everywhere, as many free places, no matter if it's video or audio. You just got to be out there because people are all over the internet.
Well, yeah, you'll never know where you'll find a repeat viewer, repeat listener.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And then his wife either wrote or consulted on a monkeys book, all about the monkeys from the beginning, their first show all the way till I guess they're still touring, is what she said. Is that Davy Jones passed away, but they still continue without him, and I guess they just have a replacement or.
Well, I mean, they were never a real band, so there's no reason why they shouldn't be allowed to keep touring forever.
I still don't really understand the monkeys.
It was a television show. They made a television show about a band.
Oh, hold on. It sounds like this is time for our segment. Derek talks about the monkeys.
Okay, here's some wild conjecture then, because I actually don't know the history of the monkeys that well. But I'm pretty sure it was just a television show about a funny band. So they cast the band. They actually cast people who could play the instruments for the show. Then the show was enough of a success that there was a demand for albums by the band, and they made actual music. And then eventually I think the show went away, and the band continued to exist as this weird, tongue-in-cheek, almost. We know it's weird, satire, but it's still worth listening to, satire. Satire is probably the wrong word. That almost gives it content and context. I don't know enough about the monkeys, but I really thought it was probably just a product that they cooked up in a studio, and then it just got away from them in a good way.
This has been Derek Talks About the Monkeys.
Your B flat's sharp.
I wanted to do more segments on here. That was kind of part of the rebranding or reshifting, but it doesn't work if you don't plan for them in advance. And it probably means a lot more composing. But I think I finished my story about the meetup group. I think that was... one other interesting person that I met was a veteran. She said she was in Iraq for 7 to 9 years or something like that, and she came back, and she doesn't have a podcast, but her idea is that she wants to talk about depression and suicide in the military, as her focus, and have various people who either have friends or family or themselves have gone through things like she has apparently, and I think that's great. I think anything to take the veil from mental health down is good. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's bring up the energy with some suicidal veterans.
I just think that's important to talk about.
No, it's not important to talk about in this context. It is depressing as shit to talk about in this context.
That's the
stigma. You know what else is really interesting? Sometimes veterans kill themselves.
They definitely
do. Let's talk about ghoulies.
We should. It should be that, it shouldn't be that flippant, but it should be part of the, conversation. And if anybody out there who listens to this now or, 30 years from now hears me mention that someone was thinking about making a podcast about military suicide, and that inspires them to action, then it was totally worth it. Because I don't know if this woman's going to make her podcast. Her idea might only live on in my words. And who knows?
Did
That's
you
how
just
life is.
deify yourself in that example? You're like, I might be the only thing saving veterans. I am the thing that will save humanity.
I am a walking, talking I am a Library of Alexandria, and when I'm gone, all of history will be lost.
You heard about a lady's idea, and it has made you feel like you have empowered a generation.
I have conviction now to carry this message on to the next.
The level of self-delusion.
I will go around the world telling people about this woman's idea to do something. and spread her message. I don't even remember her name. I don't think she had a card. I feel terrible. If you're listening, please send me an email. I'd love for you to be a guest. And I would love to be a guest on your show and talk about, I haven't been in the military, but I'd love to talk about all of that. Let's see. Anything else before we start ramping up to the break?
The break?
Yeah, I mentioned at the top of the show that you hated so much that we were going to insert an interview from the Midsummer Scream where I talked to. And
I do not hate the show so much.
I said the intro.
Oh.
You hate the intro
yeah, I
so
mean,
much.
maybe.
You hate the thing where I go, welcome to the Gory Days, the show where we take a stroll down memory lane to remember our favorite movies.
No,
from the
that part's solid. The part I don't love is when you then sandbag the shit out of your guest by making them a comedy Bang Bang character.
I was not...
Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to deny that one even?
I was not trying to make you a comedy Bang Bang character, you son of a bitch. God, you're going to cut me right where it hurts.
Slice!
Okay, so yeah, it's no secret. I've been inspired by some of my favorite podcasts, among them Comedy Bang Bang, Harmontown, maybe even a little WTF after the first 25 minutes, but yeah, it's no secret.
No, it's fine to look at quality and try to replicate it.
I'm not trying to replicate it. And if anything, yes, it is. It's good to look at art and try to replicate it because in that replication can come originality. It's not
and
plagiarizing.
Just talent and learning too.
Well, I mean, like all the best people copied or just like learned from each other, learned from the past. Composers today have to learn from Beethoven and still read those backs. Have to stand on the backs of giants.
Yes,
even in science.
I totally agree.
So then, where's the line for plagiarism? Like this movie,
making money off of it.
I'll spoil. This is a nice segue. When does a movie go from, or I'm sorry, when does an art thing go from an homage or an inspiration and become just a total ripoff?
When it makes money off of it.
When it starts to make money?
Basically.
Well, the movie that we're talking about today is Gremlins from 1984, and it's widely speculated that this movie was the movie that inspired Ghoulies, Critters, basically any movie with like teeny tiny puppet gross things. And, there have been some fingers pointed at movies like that go, this is just Gremlins. What are you guys doing? I'm like, no, this is an original idea. So I'm curious from your perspective. That is
insulting.
Yeah.
The idea that someone could say Gremlins was the origin of any original idea. Like...
Oh, you're on the other side.
Yeah, no, it's goddamn puppets doing weird shit. Like, am I going to say that that's a copyrightable idea? That Gremlins came up with the idea of wacky monsters doing annoying things?
I'm trying to see.
Because, I mean, that's a pretty ubiquitous idea in children's entertainment at this point. Probably was well before then, too.
Well, because you've seen Ghoulies. Do you think there's any argument that it's like, oh, this is the Gremlins, and you guys just copied the Gremlins? That's such a stretch.
Not really. No, it's just weird puppets. The whole tone of Gremlins versus Ghoulies is very different. Like, Gremlins is
it's a cautionary tale.
Stupidly family-friendly the entire time. Like, my initial objection with Gremlins before you even get into any part of it is that it is not a horror movie, and that it is wrong for us to be discussing it on this podcast. And now that my complete objections have been recorded,
now
we can relax.
Okay. Yeah, there are many who speculate that this inspired not only Ghoulies, but Troll, Hobgoblins, and a movie called Munchies from 1987 that was more about an individual, like, puppet genie that was doing all kinds of illicit bad things all over town that they had to put back in a bottle for some reason. Not Gremlins at all, just because it had a tiny puppet. People are, taking
Well, it's also a genie in a bottle.
Is this movie kind of like Genie in a Bottle?
Well, there's a magic shop that has a bottled item, for all intents and purposes, that gets let out, causes havoc, and then has to be rebottled at the end.
I never thought about that. We'll hit on that a little bit later as we talk about the movie, but for now, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the fantastic 80s fantasy horror family comedy. God, multi-hyphenate. I almost said Ghoulies. Gremlins, 1984, when we come back.
Gory Days.
So obviously podcasting is an audio medium, so describe for the listener what we're looking at here.
So this is a business called Mad Masks. These are all handcrafted leather masks. A lot of them are comic, but we also do anime and kids masks. We do Disney as well.
So catering mostly to the cosplayer community and basically anybody that wants to dress up?
Exactly. Cosplayers, people who love Halloween, anyone who just likes to dress up,
Honestly,
for fun.
these are really good quality. I would imagine like student films or things like that. People come to you. Do you
Yes,
have?
in fact, we have people who do films come to us, and we sell in bulk as well.
Okay.
And yeah, they plug us on Instagram. We do the same for them. It's really great.
So what do you love about horror? What brings you to this world, if you do love it?
I actually love cosplay more than anything.
Okay.
But we came to Midsummer last year, and we did very, very well. People who love horror also love to dress up. So it's kind of like, it works both ways.
Naturally, there's a lot of overlap from what I've seen. A lot of the costume store or booths, makeup booths, and things like that. Do you specifically have any kind of relationship to horror? Do you like it? Or do you usually like fantasy or sci-fi or political dramas?
I like horror. I mean, Freddy Krueger was one of my favorites growing up. So I like more of the campy type horrors.
Oh, okay.
Jason.
Well, that's what we focus on, the 80s. So yeah, some of the not as good movies, but certainly no less memorable.
Oh, they're so fun.
So where would we find you online?
So we're on shopmadmask.com. We're also on eBay under the username mad_masks.
And which is the best way? Which gives you the most money and doesn't take any percentage away from you?
Our website, our official website of shopmadmasks.com.
Okay, thank you very much. And what was your name?
My name is Rachel.
Nice to meet you, Rachel.
Nice to meet you too.
Gory Days.
It's going to be. It depends.
It depends.
Maybe. Probably.
Welcome back to the Gory Days. If you're just joining us, like a radio show, if you're just joining us, we're on hour 12 of Firewatch.
If you're just joining us, the beginning of the episode is at the start of this.
Oh, we are talking
Stupid.
about Gremlins from 1984. So, full disclosure, I love this movie right off the bat. I saw this movie as a kid long before this show was ever a blip on my radar. And so we'll get that out of the way, as I feel a little bit biased in that I really like this movie. But at some point in time, you saw this movie before. Today was the second time, or have you seen it more than that?
Nope, 2 times.
Just 2 times.
Both times with you.
Okay. And
Really wondering why I chose the second viewing.
Yeah.
I had forgotten more than I thought.
you had a good
actually.
time, though, right?
Oh, no. No, I did not. Listeners, I did not have a good time. It is not a fun movie to watch anymore. I think the sobering moment for me, and I know Kyle's trying to get into the synopsis, but I have to say it ahead, and I'll hit back on it later, is about 3/4 of the way through this movie, they're all just, the Gremlins, the titular Gremlins, are just tearing up shit in a movie theater. And I realized, I'm watching the Minions movie.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a half step difference between they speak a barely little bit of English, they cause weird chaos, they repeat the same phrases over and over, and my stomach turned, and I went, I fucking hate this movie now.
You sure that wasn't because you were hungover?
Now, you talked about, like, it inspired these other movies that came after it, and that's bullshit. Those are just sort of similar. It inspired the Minions.
Oh, well, yeah.
This led to
I feel like you could follow
chittering, like, broken English speaking, phrase repeating, chaotic,
kinda
stupid,
cute, but kinda
slapsticky,
weird.
cute but weird, indestructible and yet magical annoyance that appeals to children for some, not like in the movie sense, like in the universe. Children are into like the Mogwai. They think it's cool and not creepy as shit, like they should.
Tell me about your childhood. Did you have a lot of toys?
Yeah.
A lot of soft,
I was a
cuddly
single child.
things?
I was an only child. I had everything. Everything I wanted and more.
And for some reason, you just didn't flock to what might have... Oh, well, wait. What year were you born?
What, did you think I was a child in 84?
You were 19. You were born in
I was
1989.
born in 89. I was
Okay.
negative 5 years old when
Yeah.
this movie came out.
So,
it was beyond irrelevant
it
by the
was
time I was a child.
Well past the zeitgeist by the time you were born.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I lived a blissfully Minions-free childhood. It was, after things like this, and I would say I stopped being a child a few years before Despicable Me came out and ruined the hellscape of modern cinema.
I just wonder if anyone else finds that as interesting as me, that it's a really small difference that you were born in 89 and Gremlins, it didn't matter to you, and Gremlins 2 didn't matter to you. I was born in 1991 and Gremlins 2 was huge for me. In 1991, Gremlins 2 had been out for a year, and all the toys were still there, and the movies were going to come out on VHS, like, by the time I was, 1. And somehow, I couldn't have watched it that early, but from 91 to 97, during my childhood, I somehow got Gremlins
Typically,
fever.
the answer is your dad was into it
Maybe,
or something.
maybe,
because,
yeah. But no, my parents...
Bluntly, kids don't choose their interest that much at age 3.
That's another really interesting thing. That's something I've found from this podcast, talking to a lot of people, that their foray into horror, their foyer into horror...
Their foie gras into horror.
Into horror is either a sibling or a parent. Like, somehow they didn't seek out horror and then, stay with it. It was imparted upon them.
It's like beer.
It's like a lot of those. And I can't remember what the first movie, like, maybe my parents showed me, or because it wasn't a sibling. I do have a sister, but I'm the older. Yeah, so I don't know where I got my horror interest, but it's there because I did love Gremlins, and I remember.
But
going
that's
back.
not a horror movie.
That's true. It's
you
like
just
soft
like
horror,
fun kids movie. It's
Yeah.
a fun kids movie. Of course, you should like it as a kid.
So that's a nice segue, because this is, as I mentioned before or after the break or before the break, a horror, family, fantasy comedy. Officially, all 4 of those genres. Executive produced by Steven Spielberg. You can kind of feel the Steven Spielberg-y, like, family feel to this movie. It's got some, like, bum 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 scenes of people just, like, going around town. Some like
a solid
picturesque...
third of it is just characters doing weird, like puppets doing
it's like
weird
a Norman
shit.
Rock. Oh, well, I know. I'm just trying to, like, set the idea of Steven Spielberg films and how this falls into that, because he didn't direct it. Oh, okay. You think Steven Spielberg's are mostly puppets? What? Oh, okay, so you think Steven Spielberg movie... I'm sorry.
No, I don't think Steven Spielberg movies are puppet movies.
Oh. What are you trying to say?
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I loved the fucking puppet work in it.
If that's what you believe, then as the host, I'm going to support that for no reason.
Well, that's a bad idea. You should stomp that crazy out.
Is that something I'm supposed to do on this show? That if someone says something that I think is dumb, I tell them and disagree with them and we fight?
That's a conversation, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I disagree.
I mean, you could ask the
Well, you
question,
didn't say
why are
anything.
you so dumb? That could be your follow-up question.
Why are you so dumb? Like that? Why are you so dumb? Like that? So yeah, this is a Steven Spielberg executive produced movie. There's, like, little hints and nods all over the place. Like Derek mentioned, there's a stuffed E.T. at one point. Like I mentioned, there's the Rockin Ricky Rialto, like Indiana Jones reference and things. In fact, Steven Spielberg himself makes a cameo at one point at the tech convention as a man in a, like, futuristic recumbent bicycle. It's pretty fun. Let's see. So yeah. Released on Friday, June 8th, 1984, Gremlins... God, I'm going to do that over and over again. Not Ghoulies. Gremlins was directed by Joe Dante at the ripe old age of 38. Steven Spielberg had a relationship with Joe Dante because he had just directed The Howling in 1981, and before that, Piranha in 1978. And since this came out in 1984, you probably wouldn't be surprised to hear that Joe Dante had a little bit of a lull in his career after The Howling. It's about a 2 to 3 year gap before getting the call from Steven Spielberg to say, hey, I got a new movie I want you to direct, because Chris Columbus has this great script. Do you recognize the name?
No.
Chris Columbus?
I mean,
In 1492.
Christopher Columbus?
Yeah, the same guy. No, Chris Columbus is a writer. He's actually done a lot through Hollywood, but I mostly know him as a director. He apparently wrote The Goonies, but I know him for directing Home Alone, Mrs. Doubtfire, and the first 2 Harry Potter movies, Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets. That's why there's a huge tonal shift from the second movie to the third, which kind of also fits the books. There's kind of an adult shift. Did you ever read the Harry Potter books?
I did.
Okay.
Like many people, I read those books.
And so I always say what I just said, but I realize it's canned. I didn't read the third
No, I was
book.
going to call you out on it as soon as you shut up, actually, and go, Kyle, you didn't read any of those books. Stop saying things like that.
No, but there is a tonal shift in the movie, and
Yeah,
I
no, that's
assume
true.
it reflects the books, because the plot has to be the same, right? Which is dark.
You know the idea of a book in a
That's what I'm
movie,
saying.
right? And sometimes the plot is not like, they don't read the goddamn book as characters in the movie.
This actually inspired a book by the same name that's not...
It inspired a book?
It did, yeah, and it's not officially the canon, but it's interesting. The novel, written by George Guype, who also did a novelization of Back to the Future, offered an origin for the Mogwai.
Oh,
at
it's just a
Gremlins.
novelization?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, it's just some guy trying to make money on his fan
It's a
fiction.
novelization of the film that includes a prequel.
Yeah, it's like Pride and Prejudice and zombies and stuff. You take something that people already liked, you add your garbage to the front of it, and then
It's not canon.
sell it back to idiots.
It doesn't change anything. But so in the story, which this perfectly ruins the Mogwai for me, in my opinion. Supposedly, Mogwai were created as gentle, contemplative creatures by a scientist on an alien world. However, it was discovered that their physiology was unstable. The end result was that only 1 in 10,000 Mogwai would retain their sweet, loving demeanor. The rest would change into creatures that the novel referred to as mischievous. The minority Mogwai are all but immortal by human standards, though Gizmo explains to Stripe that if he were to undergo the transformation himself, he would become like the others, short-lived and violent. This origin is unique to the novel, but is referred to in the novelization of Gremlins 2. No definitive origin for the Mogwai or Gremlins is given in either Gremlins film, and that's just the way I like it.
The point of that is there's a reference to it in the next made-up book he made up?
The point of that is
No. It's like, oh, and that's confirmed because the next bullshit book I made up also says it.
Oh, it wasn't written by him. The Gremlins 2 novelization was by author David Bischoff.
Oh, they're the same
The point
person.
still stands.
Wait, that name actually seems familiar for some reason.
Oh,
Anyway,
really? Did
yeah.
he do some other novelizations
That's
that
some
maybe you
terrible
read?
sci-fi I've read? I don't know.
Probably. So, written by Chris Columbus, directed by Joe Dante, executive produced by Steven Spielberg, and produced by Joe Dante's friend Michael Fennell, who produced The Howling as well.
There's 3 EPs, by the way. You're just cutting out the other 2.
Oh, that's right. Kathleen Kennedy was one of the others. I think so Kathleen Kennedy owns the wing or the branch of Disney that governs Star Wars right now. That's where that name is recognizable to me, at least. Until extremely recently, she resigned and stepped down, and now I don't know who's in charge of it. But for a long time, she was the one pulling the strings. It was her It was her that...
Keep going. Got to know more words.
It was she that orchestrated the Rogue One prequel story thing that we're still seeing the results of. Solo, Rogue One, prequel stories that take... Well, not... It was Kathleen Kennedy's genius idea to, reinvigorate the Star Wars with expanded universe instead of just sticking to a main storyline, which... I'm all for.
The stories.
Yeah. I don't know why she stepped down, though. But Kathleen Kennedy was another executive producer on this film. You're correct. There was a third one whose name I
will
don't
be lost to history.
Yeah. Distributed by Warner Brothers, which is what gives them all of the creative control. You'll find Gremlins things in Warner Brothers-owned parks. At Six Flags, they had not a ride, but like a temporary kind of like maze experience. And I was amazed to find out that there is a Warner Brothers movie amusement park. It's in Australia.
Okay.
It's the only amusement park in Australia. Let me see here.
Sorry, you're acting like I really should be blown away by the fact that
was the thing. I was like, that's
the thing?
That was the thing.
That Australia has a theme park?
No, it's not that Australia has a theme park. It's that there's a theme park that I would love that exists in the world and is only in Australia. So it's called Warner Brothers Movie World in Oxenford, Queensland, Australia. The only amusement park in the whole AU. Featured 2 Gremlins characters.
Is that the Australian Union?
Mm-hmm.
Who the fuck is in the Australian Union?
Australia and New Zealand.
Those Kiwis are going to be pissed at you for saying that, but go ahead.
There were 2 rides, Great Gremlins Adventure and the Gremlins Invasion, that they've both closed down.
Too many people died?
Too many people died. It was a massacre.
In line.
So, back in 1984, this movie, along with Steven Spielberg, generated... So Steven Spielberg was attached to it. Naturally, Warner Brothers was willing to give them a pretty hefty budget of $11 million, which most of went into special effects and things. The cast honestly kept itself pretty tight by casting a nobody as the main lead. Zach Galligan is Billy Peltzer. Yeah, the Peltzer family. Billy Peltzer, played by a nobody, first time. But when he came in and acted with Kate, played by Phoebe Cates, she was like, oh, he's great. He was that nerdy guy. And she kept talking about him. They're like, well, their chemistry's good, so let's cast him.
Oh, God.
That's how it works sometimes.
That's bad. It worked bad that time.
He's not good.
He's a lump.
He's not good in this movie.
Does nothing.
Let's see, what
I'm
else?
glad they saved the money.
The creatures are credited by Chris Wallace or something, Walas, who designed all these creatures. Wallace, Walas, Wallace.
Oh, huh, interesting.
Yeah. And the music by Jerry Goldsmith, who won himself a Saturn Award for Best Music. I think the music has a fun, like, it does a good job of mixing, like, the horror and comedy elements in an oral fashion. Oral being A-U-R-A-L, not oral. Oral.
You're not going to spell the second one, just to make it super clear. Don't waste any more.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, wrapping up really quick, trying to get to, so we can talk about the movie itself. Horror comedy was on the rise at this time in 1984. Ghostbusters came out the exact same weekend, so there was a lot of market research going on, probably because of the success of these movies. 1981, American Werewolf in London, very popular horror comedy. Evil Dead, another horror comedy, 1981. Slumber Party Massacre, a movie that we did on here, 1982. Sleepaway Camp, 1983. Horror comedy is a hot ticket item right now.
Right now?
In the 1984 is what I mean. Like I'm trying to set the stage, the historical context for what's going on. Ronald Reagan's president right now. We're listening to
actor?
Time After Time. Yeah, we're listening to Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. Those are the top songs on the radio right now. Don't you love those songs? We're playing Duck Hunt at my friend's house and watching The Big Chill, Octopussy, Terms of Endearment, and Children of the Corn on video.
On 4 different TVs at the same time.
1984. That's a fun one. I should do that more often the way I just did it. And finally, this is one of the first movies that capitalized on like marketing toys and fast food and like in a way that people didn't expect. You know, what am I saying?
Was there Happy Meal toys with Gizmo on it or something?
Yeah, but they made Gremlins cereal,
Yeah.
action figures, trading cards, and a major fast food toy campaign at Carl's Jr. and Hardee's, which made a ton of money as well, mostly because the perceived cuteness of the Mogwai and the cuteness of, teeny gremlins when they're not tearing you to shreds and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it probably led the push. We don't see that as much anymore. Brands tend to stay a little farther away from kids and fast food advertising.
Yeah, mostly because of the implications of, like, you're just trying to make our kids fat by
there's
giving
also
them toys.
legal regulation that stops them from doing it.
Oh,
in
there's
certain
a law?
countries.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't know each country, but they vary.
So, as we all know, or maybe some of the listeners may know, this movie inspired one sequel, Gremlins The New Batch in 1990, that takes place in a big high-rise, and all the gremlins get, like, powers, and it's completely kooky. And if you think this one had some silly elements, that one, there's, like, no dark comedy. There's no dark in it at all. It's all comedy. But we're not talking about Gremlins 2, The New Batch, on today's episode. We are talking about Gremlins 1 from 1984. And so, without further ado, let's go into the recap. Gremlins tells the story of the Peltzer family. Rand Peltzer is an inventor down on his luck. It's checking the streets of Chinatown for potential salesman opportunities. I want to be detailed in this opening part at least, because, it's like there's basically 3 movie beats that I want to be super detailed with. Because
I didn't cut you off yet. I knew you have some plan, so I'm letting you just get through it. Don't explain while you're getting through it.
Yeah, but I want you to jump
on,
on,
Oh my
too.
God, say the points and I'll jump in.
Okay, anyway, so Randall Peltzer, played by...
No, we don't care.
Well, it's
you care. I guess it's an important
I want to make sure the if any other people out there who recognize Hoyt Axton go, oh, that was Hoyt Axton as Rand Peltzer. So Rand Peltzer is the father of the Peltzer clan. He is an inventor. He makes enough money to sustain them somehow. And he is in Chinatown, and he finds himself, or no, a little kid is leading him to a place where his grandfather
The weird part
works.
is he's clearly met the kid ahead of time.
Yeah, like he's been following him for a while.
He's like, this isn't where your grandfather's shop is. And he's like, yeah, it is. And I'm like, oh, they've had a rapport? He like met a kid at an airport, and the kid went, hey, you want to go back to my grandfather's shop? And he's like, well,
the guy was like,
I guess.
I'm not doing anything.
Like, that's... and then at the end of the day, he went there ostensibly to shop around, and then he instantly just goes into a sales pitch instead, and then he ends up buying something anyway.
So that's what makes
Very
me think,
confused, man.
yeah, was he always trying to sell? Was he always going into places pretending to be interested in selling, or is that his pivot in case he doesn't find anything in a store he doesn't like?
Both? I mean,
Yeah.
Probably the first one, honestly. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who schemes.
No, well, he makes a lot of money to, like I said, sustain his family.
No, he doesn't make a lot of
somehow.
money. They have a piece of shit house that's like falling apart in the middle of Poor Town.
Yeah.
What? And the
So they're
son
in
works, I think, too.
Chinatown.
He works all day at the frickin' bank, and so does the mom. How do you think the dad is making enough money to support shit?
I forgot about that. I forgot.
The whole town is like ludicrously impoverished. Which is bizarre for a 1980s
where is
movie.
Chinatown?
Because it's like my conception of the 80s is like this roaring economic decade for America. And only once do they have an 80s guy come in, played by Judge Reinhold, and like do his big 80s guy, I'm making the money, see? Thing. And then he just kind of disappears. That doesn't really explain, like, this whole movie is just this weird, like, small town America anxiety that, oh, things are changing, so we're going to have a hard time. But it won't commit to ever even, like, barely saying what the problem is or why it's unavoidable.
Except for that one guy who thinks it's all foreigners and hates foreigners because he was in World War II and all that. He's the only one that gives us a name.
Pathetic, like, barely an effort
but he's
at,
an
like,
alcoholic.
justifying this, like, ongoing anxiety that the town has. But, yeah.
Yeah. So he goes to Chinatown. He's a traveler, so it could be Chinatown, San Francisco. It could be Chinatown, I don't know. But he goes to Chinatown, goes there, realizes there's nothing here, tries to sell the guy the bathroom buddy, which is a piece of crap, but comes up every now and then. But he hears a sound, and he goes over to the box, and inside the box is something singing. And I'm sure you know what's going to happen. The guy, he initially, the old man, the grandfather, initially won't sell it to him, says, no, can't sell it. Too much responsibility. But then the kid says, he doesn't know what he's talking about. We really need the money. I love this. Why would someone do this is always answered by, well, they really need the money. The kid obviously didn't know how dangerous the Mogwai was.
But he knows all the rules.
That's right. He's the one that tells him,
He still tells him all the
okay,
rules.
sir.
He clearly knows all of the like things that you have to do. He just has no idea what would happen if you don't.
And so part and parcel to Gremlins, there are 3 very important rules when you take home a Mogwai. Light. They are very susceptible to light, especially sunlight. It will kill them, so don't let them be in bright lights. Water. Don't ever get them wet. But the most important, under no circumstances should you ever feed your Mogwai after midnight.
All 3 of the rules are so incredibly stupid.
Yeah, let's break it down. So
I mean, number
light.
1, okay, it's not like Earth has
Like
a
a
lot of
vampire.
sunlight or anything, but, you know, fine. We'll just ignore the fact that there's almost no situation in which there's no light. These shit, like, don't live in caves. Even the room he's in at the Chinese guy's store is way brighter than, like, it should be for his comfort. Anyway, repeatedly they do that.
Well, he's like in that
And
box,
then
yeah.
They also commit what I like to call the signs problem of having aliens come to Earth and be weak to water when it makes up like a majority of our atmosphere and covers 70% of the planet. And it's like, oh, the thing that kills them is humidity. Here it's like the thing that transforms them is humidity. That thing that is very, very difficult to find. I mean, mind you, it's not humidity, but they don't really clarify how much water is enough.
Well, that's what I
water.
love, is that they explain in the first rule the result of it. So you know what not to do. Oh, light kills it. Got it. Don't get it wet. Just don't do it. You don't want to know.
That's true.
And
That
don't
only
feed
the
it
first
after
rule,
midnight.
only the
You
first
never-
rule gives you a reason for why not to do something.
So that's why these people are inevitably breaking the second 2, because it's like, well, what's the problem?
Well, because there's no way you'd know what 2 and 3 do and sell it.
You would assume it's like, oh, well, you don't want it to get fat. You don't want it to get sick.
I mean, and also just beyond, it must just be altruism, because there's no reason why the Chinese guy hasn't just killed Gizmo.
That's a huge question that I want to get to later.
I mean, he must be functionally immortal, because otherwise you'd have to try to just destroy this Bane, this demon that could end humanity.
It's essentially that's the headcanon that I like to imagine, that it was placed here by like a trickster god or something, and it will long exist beyond the earth after it's over and will roam, just making songs to itself. So the creature that he buys, Rand Peltzer, he brings it home to his family, his son Billy and his wife.
His adult son Billy. The kid's like, I think he's supposed to be playing like 15, and the actor's probably like 22. And it's ridiculous because he does like this, oh boy, howdy routine when he gets a freaking gift from his dad. And it's like, so out of character for even a teenager to care this much about something.
He already has a dog. He takes the dog to work. He works as a bank teller, and he takes the dog there every day and gets threatened, I assume every day, to not bring the dog to work. His boss and the Judge Reinhold guy are like, oh, you shouldn't have that dog in here. Like, this is the first time it's ever happened.
He has a hook under his desk that he ties it to, so it's clearly not the first time.
And even the old woman, so this old woman, played by Polly Holiday, Mrs. Deagle, is just like, in these family movies, they give us a antagonist that's so evil that we're almost rooting for her to die.
But Kyle, the weird part is she's not an antagonist to any of our main characters.
No, she's just...
That's the thing. We only meet... She's an antagonist to some nameless woman with her children out front of the bank who she's like foreclosing on her house.
Oh, she's a monster to them.
There's that. But outside of threatening Billy's dog, which, I mean, she goes way over the top. She's like, I'm going to torture it slowly to death.
Torture.
But mind you,
public.
It did jump over the counter at a bank into her face. It's a little unreasonable. I'm not saying she gets to torture his dog to death. I'm just saying she has a valid complaint with Billy.
Is her valid complaint substantiated by cutting everyone else off in line and stomping right up to the front?
No, everyone else should hate her. I'm just saying, as far as an antagonist goes, she never really antagonizes anyone in our main family.
That's true. If anything, she's the hero of her own story. She's got all her cats. What else could she want? She goes around town taking people's money.
She literally never
death.
complains that she wants anything else. She actually seems pretty happy at home still.
Of course she's happy. She's the richest woman in town. She's taking everyone's money, apparently okay, so this town, it's supposed to be like Any Town USA, this small, like, Americana, who's that painter? Norman Rockwell, like, kind of town out of the 80s. But the people, like you were explaining earlier, like, they don't...
Like, no one is making enough money, which is like, okay, we're trying to portray,
everyone's
like,
poor.
Economic anxiety. I understand that. But with, like I said, it's so toothless because it's a family movie that it can't ever explain, like, oh, it's because, like, the factories have shut down, or, oh, it's because the landlord bitch lady won't, like, cut our rent and she's just raised it for the last 10 years. Like, there's no attempt to, like, give any context for why,
grounded reason
why every teenager in this town
has
needs
a job.
2 jobs to, like, stay alive.
Yeah, Kate has 2 jobs, and she
she doesn't get paid for the second one.
Oh, that's right.
She just does it, like, that's
help
the whole
out?
thing is, like, this whole, like, small town America vibe of, it's enough that we're all just in it together. We're just trying to survive and, like,
in this
make
town
it
of
along.
50.
Yeah, and it's like, it's sort of played admirably, but it's tired.
It's a weird theme, yeah, of the, like, small town mentality. It's what kind of feeds in at the end during the news report. It's like, oh, sources just talked this up to mass hysteria. Because it's, you know, these insulated small towns, it happens, like Jonestown, you know, is like a town that just disappears off the map. Isn't that the one that they all killed themselves?
I don't think you know very much about Jonestown.
Isn't Jonestown the one
It's the one where they killed themselves,
Yeah.
but it doesn't disappear off the map. They went to South America to found Jonestown.
am I mixing two? Which one am I thinking of where all the people just vanished, where it was like an entire compound?
Roanoke?
Is that... No, it was more recent, like where they had like footage. They were like helicopters and it's like everyone's gone.
What?
Yeah, there was some... I remember watching like a 1990s or 1980s news report of this cult of people there were hundreds of them living in like these, you know, giant tents and things. And then one day, all gone. Tent's still there, the food's still there.
That sounds like a creepypasta you're mixing with real life. That's not something that happened.
Okay, well, it's chilling, isn't it?
It's chilling. I'd be
like
terrified if that
people,
happened.
What
country did that happen in?
I think it was America. But when I heard that, my mind was, it's like, that's part of the cult. Is like, okay, one day we shed all physical things that say we're part of the cult and we assimilate back into society. And, you know, until something. And I was like, ooh, that's creepy. Like, they all...
No, see, that presupposes, like, that cults exist to, like, bring together rational people towards a means and ends, and not a way to exploit the craziest and, like, most vulnerable of our society into paying you money.
You could make them sleeper agents. You could say...
No, like, you can't, Kyle. They are batshit insane. They believed that your cult was real. You can't make them into anything. If you can make them, like, wear clothing that day.
That's a good point. Cultists are not healthy people. They should seek help. So, Rand Peltzer comes home. He brings the gift to his wonderful family. Billy opens the gift, and inside is Gizmo, the first instance that we see of seeing this cute little thing that he calls a mogwai. A mogwai? That's some Chinese word. It's not cute.
It's not cute. It's fucking weird.
Its eyes are okay. Like there's supposed to be this
It's
universal.
a Furby. It's just Furby. It looks like
Yeah,
a
it's
Furby.
Furby before
and,
Furby.
Like, okay.
Without the
yeah.
beak.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Furby ripped it off. It even has the beak.
Oh, it 100% ripped it off. I believe Furby.
Well, no,
take the arms
I'm
off of
saying
Gizmo.
I'm
you
saying
got
chronologically. I want to make sure I'm not saying a stupid thing. I
No,
know
Furby was in the
I know
90s.
Furby came after. Is
Yeah.
all I'm saying. I'm just saying.
No, I
even
believe
the
Furby
beak,
ripped
even
off.
the beak on Furby looks a shitload like the mouth
You're
on
right.
Gizmo, which is this weird little like squid beak during half the scenes anyway.
with like it's no lips. It's just this weird like mass of.
It's hideous. It's
so
fucking hideous every time.
There's supposed to be this universal standards of cuteness. Tiny head, big feet, big eyes. This is just gross to look at
No,
the
it's
whole time.
giant head, big eyes.
I don't know if I'm jaded,
like,
but this thing just, I wouldn't want to cuddle with it. And they are instantly
they're
enamored.
so in love with it. Like this kid,
This is a freaky,
this
sentient
adult man
monkey.
who goes by Billy still because
Yeah,
that.
William Peltzer, but he goes by Billy.
Yeah, opens a box, sees a horrifying disfigured monster creature, and he's not
cuddles
only
it.
like generally interested in it, not at all alarmed, and then just picks it. He goes, "Can I pick it up?" And his dad goes, "I don't see why not." I can see a fuck ton of reasons why not. You bought it in the back of a Chinese store. You bought it in the alley from a kid who sold it to you for cash only. It's something you've never seen before, and you have been given magic rules about it. And one of them was not, it's okay to pick it up.
Yeah, you don't
So-
know. It was in his box. For all you know, it's
I
radioactive.
can think of a lot of reasons why not.
Oh.
You're not even supposed to pick up, like, lizards. And
Yeah,
they're just
like
regular
iguanas.
things.
Yeah, there's a lot of animals you
Like
can't
turtles
just
you're
pick
not
up.
supposed to pick up.
I don't see why not. So the way people react to the Mogwai and the Gremlins and things in this movie makes me think that there's like a gas leak throughout the town that everyone's experiencing or something, because they are just unfazed by everything. Or like there's Xanax in the water.
The police get to see it, and they're like, it's fine. It's kind of weird.
It's so funny. This town has like, the police chief who's like well above everyone else and tries to get free things all over the place. So Billy thinks it's great. They try to take a flash picture, and that's when the dad's like, "Oh yeah, there's some rules," and he tells him, no bright light. And that's the thing I love about Gizmo is when he gets bright light shown on him, he goes, "Bright light, bright light,"
Which is the first time where we know that it can suddenly speak and understand
Well,
like
it can
human
sing.
concepts.
Yeah, and that's how we learn, like, it's super sentient. It's teaching Billy to sing its song, and when Billy plays a wrong note, it's like, no, this is the right note.
And then it pushes the note, and it's like,
And Billy's
he's
like,
not
huh.
even phased. He's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Doesn't even
like as
care.
if his dog has been composing music with him up till now, and now it's like, oh, I guess this is better.
Like, oh, it rolled over. Even then, you would be more excited.
It is fully sentient, and he's just like mildly interested in it, which
Gizmo...
still pales in comparison to the mild interest we see.
Yeah, seriously. Really quick, Gizmo's played by Howie Mandel. There's a lot of voice actors throughout this movie, and I'll name
Gizmo
them
is
as they
played
come
at
up.
times by Howie Mandel. Is he the only voice of
Yeah,
him?
he's the voice of Howie Mandel, which is kind of funny, because Howie Mandel is Howie Mandel, and he does this... like singing
Yeah,
thing.
it's like it's not really to Howie Mandel's credit. It's a voice that literally
Anyone could
do. Like, why did you cast someone to do that? Just have your fucking sound guy make it up.
I feel like that's what they do now, is they'll just have like their kid or their friend, or they'll do it themselves, and yeah, because it's just cheaper. It's always cheaper. So yeah, Howie Mandel plays Gizmo. Corey Feldman plays Billy's best friend, who's like 9 years old.
Like, it's not even clear that he's his best friend. Like, he comes over to deliver something,
To deliver
and
the
then,
tree.
comes in the house, and then just hangs out for the rest of the movie.
Hangs out. He comes up because he wants to see these comic books. He's like, "Oh wow, these are you got these number ones," completely ignoring Gizmo. So that when Gizmo finally starts making noise, oh, Corey's super into. I'm not gonna stop. I gotta stop calling him Corey Feldman. I want to stick to it. His name's Pete. So Pete gets it wet. Bunch of tiny little tribble pop out and start inflating. Apparently we're balloons covered in fur, because it's a pretty cool effect as they inflate. And there's, I think, 6 or 7 new Mogwai, and they're really annoying and really chittering, and Gizmo seems to hate them right away. But Billy thinks this is a great opportunity to bring them to the school scientist to get some information on them.
Nope. That's the worst part. He doesn't
did I
even
skip that?
actually bring any of them to the scientist. He brings Gizmo to the scientist, and then immediately puts water on him just to make another one pop out.
He says, "Watch this." After last night listening to his cries of pain. And Pete, after seeing them like all inflate and grow, he's like, huh, that's cool. Goes back to reading comic books and thinks 3D comic books are more interesting than this brand new creature. that apparently evolves by budding. Or reproduces by budding. So yeah, he takes the he takes Gizmo to the scientist, says, watch this, gets him wet so that he pops a new one, and then leaves that new one for the doctor to take blood sample. Not a doctor, sorry, he's the school scientist. He teaches like sex ed or in physics, or he's teaching like the blood at some point.
It doesn't, or bio. He's teaching
it must be bio because he deals with blood.
The only teaching we see him doing is putting on a movie for his class, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a substitute and he's just showing a movie. That's not good teaching.
It's pretty lax.
Then they go back to Billy's house. Billy accidentally feeds them after midnight.
That's right. The Gremlins trick him. He's looking at the clock and it says 11:45, so he's like, it's not after midnight, which once again throws these questions like, what is after midnight? But
yeah, the clock shows 11:47. And he goes downstairs and gets chicken.
An entire plate of chicken,
mind,
fried chicken.
I know he goes, it's still not midnight, but 11:47's a little bit close for
what
me
if
to
it
be
takes
starting.
them a while?
Or what if it's like on a slight, like my clock's a few minutes slow, and like also I thought about
Which
it, like they're sentient and intelligent. And he just throws the chicken in there and leaves it. They can just keep a fucking drumstick and eat it 20 minutes later.
Yeah.
Like there's absolutely no reason why their little clock scheme that I'm sure you're going to explain is necessary when he just hands them the food and they're smart enough to hide it.
That's a good question. Do they
No,
know
there's
what
no
will
good
happen?
questions.
Are they aware of what will happen and they're trying?
They seek it out.
Or is it just because they're hungry and
No,
gluttonous?
they wouldn't do that then. Like, they trick him into feeding them after midnight for that reason. Like, mind you, you say they're gluttonous, but we've literally never seen them request food or eat
They're
food.
like, hey,
no, that's the only time they request
You're right.
food.
Otherwise, it seems like
it's
they
not
don't
like
need
they
to
seem
eat.
like they want to eat, or they're even like.
You're
one of the rules is,
right.
they're so, even if he cries and begs, don't feed him. I kept expecting to at least see one scene where Gizmo fucking cries or begs for food after midnight. Never. Never even tries. There's zero. Like, if it was just Gizmo, there's no reason you have to give people the rules. He actively tries to follow them himself.
And everyone around him is actively trying to break them. Like,
it's like you
left to his own devices,
Yeah,
he
exactly.
would be perfectly safe. And so that raises another point. They got water on him. It's snowing throughout this movie. It's Christmas town. It's Christmas time. It's like Christmas Eve, and there's snow everywhere. Snow, listeners, spoiler alert, is frozen water.
One scene is literally raining. It's unforgivable
It's not
in
snowing.
my mind.
It's
Where it's like
just
it's a scene where there's a gremlin hot wiring a freaking
The traffic
stoplight,
light, yeah.
and it's like, first of all, whatever
Just
on
super
that.
easy to do.
But it's raining. It is visibly raining, and I'm supposed to just go, "Oh, that's not water." Why? Why even include that terribly shot, dumb, pointless joke?
So the most important thing that happens before all hell breaks loose, we really are. I want to try just like chugging this away.
That's why I try to do it in like 4 sentences because it's
know.
just a distraction.
I really got to try. So the town alcoholic is getting kicked out of the bar by Kate, and he mumbles something about the one kind of mythology that we could tie back. He says. He mentions that he was in World War II, and he says that foreigners planted gremlins in the machinery, the same gremlins that took us down in the big one, World War II. They put gremlins in everything, and he starts listing a bunch of technology things. That's real, apparently. It was mostly in Britain in World War II, but it was like kind of a joke, but also kind of like, when technology, when planes, misfires, when something wasn't working, they would go, they put gremlins in it. They put gremlins in it, yeah. And it inspired the Twilight Zone thing of there's a gremlin on the plane. Like that's a thing, and it might even still be a thing like for pilots and stuff. So as he mumbles that, I want to get to the pods. How does that happen? That's right. They ate after midnight. Thank you. So this is rule number 1. If you break it, they die. Rule number 2, if you break it, they multiply. Rule number 3, if you break it, they evolve. What would the word be? Transform.
The right word. Transform.
Evolve applies. It's like a better version of them, but I guess it is. They're more violent.
It's in every way better. It's as intelligent. It's just more violent, more ruthless, and more capable.
So they make sure to hammer it home that this is the pupa stage. When you break the 3rd rule, there's apparently some time where you can maybe torch them or just kick them or squish them where they're in this pupa, and they're just so interested in them. He's like, "Mom, take a look at this." And these gross pods. Eventually, they pop open. But he's not home when Billy's not home when they do. When they pop open, the mom is the only one home. Billy calls home to tell her, because he decides to go back to check on the scientist, the doctor guy. The scientist at the school got killed by the first that was the first one that ate after midnight, ate one of his sandwiches that he left there at like 2:30 in the morning.
Okay, sorry, I have to stop you because you said that so badly.
Did I? I'm sorry.
I'm really confused,
Say
and
it
I
again.
watched the movie.
Okay.
So Billy goes back to see the scientist who has a gremlin that was left with him after Billy multiplied Gizmo there. That gremlin eats after midnight, turns into a gremlin, kills the scientist. Billy sees that, realizes the ones at home must have hatched, calls his mom, and then they cut the line while he's calling her.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's not that you did it badly.
No,
it's just,
I really appreciate
was really
that.
confused.
That was
like-
really good. I used too many pronouns. There are like 3 he's in that scene, and I messed it up.
No, it's just chronologically. You went from most
I did go
like,
backwards.
into anyway.
Yeah. So now mom's alerted to the threat, and she grabs her kitchen knife because she was in the middle of making cookies, and that's where we get downstairs to the first really good shot of it is it biting the head off of a cookie. And how tall would you say they are? They're pretty menacing. Like, I would be afraid.
They're like
as big as a monkey.
2.5 feet tall.
It's like a chimp size, yeah.
A little bit smaller than a
they're-
chimp.
they're
Maybe a
scrawny.
macaque.
A macaque.
Yeah.
They're scrawny, but they have big giant claws. They've got weird bat ears. I want to explain just for the listener if they've never seen what a gremlin looks like and you don't feel like Googling it. It's like a bat winged...
It's the thing on the art for this episode.
No, the thing on the art for this episode is the tiny box,
Oh.
the hands poking out of it, because the poster, the marketing for it did a really great job. They never showed the Mogwai or the Gremlins. You'd had to go see it. They just, they probably were really scary. So anyway,
Or go buy a Burger King toy.
Yeah, exactly. So mom, Carl's Jr. or Hardee's. So mom comes down.
Wait, you're sure it's Carl's Jr.? Sorry, I do have to interrupt for this because the intro of this movie, there is a massive centered framed shot of a Burger King sign for a solid 5 seconds. And you're telling me that they partnered with the direct competitor of the guy they featured in the intro of their movie.
That's what my research says, yes.
Distasteful. Continue.
I wonder how Burger King felt about it. I'm sure after a while they'd spread out to McDonald's. Well, McDonald's probably wouldn't associate it with that stuff. Where was I? Okay, so I love this scene. A lot of time in movies, the women, in horror movies especially, the women are portrayed as like damsels in distresses, and they need to be saved by the men, or they need to be, I don't know, like circumstances have to make them either safe or they get killed by the monster. Mom takes her own agency into her hands in the form of a big giant kitchen knife and so she puts one in like a blender, or one's already in a blender, and it gets all chopped up in a really gross way. She straight up stabs one in the chest. She throws one in the microwave in a pretty iconic scene that caused some controversy at the time. A lot of parents believed that it would encourage kids to test it with their own pets. I'm sure some did, but what are you going to do? Movies exist. Did you have any thoughts on that?
No, I do have a thought on that because it fucking explodes. So what were the kids expect? Like if you
They would expect their pet to explode.
well, then
and when it didn't, and just died.
Then everything kind of goes as explained. Like it's not like any kid went, "Oh, I'm going to put my hamster in the microwave because hamsters like that. Gremlins taught me that." No. They were going to put it in there to kill it.
Yeah.
That child was going to kill that hamster virtually no matter what. Their intent in doing that was to kill their pet.
As an attorney,
I'm not
is
going
that
to blame Gremlins on teaching kids that microwaves are lethal.
No, just like as a rule of thumb, I don't think, art, video games, movies can really be blamed for the violent tendencies that already exist in a unstable person. Yeah,
like if you're
I
going to
never believe
microwave
that.
a living creature, I don't think seeing it in a movie is the only reason you're going to do something like that.
But moms against evil films. There's always going to be there'll always be people who think that their kids are. What does the acronym spell? Moms against
MALF?
MEM. Mom against evil films.
No, yeah.
Moms against MELF. Yeah, it's MELF. Or no, it's So the Gremlins are in full force, and they have like a weird semi-leader in the form of Stripe. He's right when he was a Mogwai, he had a mohawk, and when he turns into a full-on Gremlin, it's like this pronounced white mohawk that makes him obvious. If there is an antagonist for this movie beyond the Gremlins en masse, it's Stripe, who I hope I don't keep calling Spike. One of the Gremlins goes through the community pool. I think it's Stripe. And Billy follows him there. Stripe jumps into the pool.
Did you happen to catch why he follows him there, or how he knew that's where he was going?
No,
I
didn't.
no idea.
I don't know how he knew he was there. He has the sword that he saved his mom with. Billy comes home and eventually saves his mom and takes her next door. She's not in the rest of the movie. I can only assume she's safe at home with the neighbors. But Billy then goes to the community pool for no reason. Who told him to go there? Where does he think is...
no idea.
Did he just know, oh, that's the pool, I should guard it?
I mean, it's a small town, but again,
It's a YMCA.
Every single inch of the ground in it is covered with water because it's covered in snow.
Yeah, because it's snow,
So
and the
it's
gremlin
like-
had to get there in
And mind
snow.
you, they look reptilian, but they can still make friction heat if they want to make water out of snow.
Do reptiles not absorb water? Oh, they're cold.
Well, they won't really melt the snow
You're
because
right.
they don't have they'll just die.
Yeah.
So they're clearly not reptilian because they would just fucking die.
So when he jumps in the water,
Also, they can't be in the sun, so I guess that would make it hard to warm yourself.
because they're not cold-blooded, or if they are, they have no reason to want
Well, if they're
heat.
cold-blooded, then they have a very short lifespan option because, yeah.
Seriously. Maybe they do. It seems 24 hours. Otherwise, they have to hide indoors. So he does a cannonball in the pool, and that's a big moment for the movie because there's like this big uh-oh moment where it starts happening and the bubbles start coming and there's lights. They produce a lot of light when they multiply for no reason. I guess it's a lot of energies going on. But he bolts out of there. Billy and the dog. I forgot. Billy. We already mentioned he has a dog, but what was the dog's name?
So it starts with a B.
Barney. That's right. So chaos finally breaks loose. The entire town is going crazy, and even though the town's going crazy, Billy goes straight to the police to tell them that, hey, there's some craziness going on. And the police don't believe him for 1 second. They're getting drunk. There's two
Barney's
police
not even there. Why did you bring up the dog?
because Barney was with
Barney's
him
with
at
his
the-
dad.
No,
he's not at the
community.
pool. No, he's not. He's with his dad.
That's a weird part that I don't get either.
I'm curious why even
we see some
assuming
cutaways.
no I'm I'm having fun for a second.
Okay.
Even assuming Barney was at the pool with them, why in the hell did you choose that as the time to introduce Barney and have no effect to it and then move on to the police? You're like, oh, and he has a dog. And then they go to the police
I couldn't
station.
remember.
The fuck was the relevance of the dog even if he's there?
That's a little okay. That's a little ADD of me.
Okay,
Sorry.
so he might have a dog.
I don't know. No,
Doesn't matter, really.
It doesn't matter, but that's a good point because
Sorry.
the dad is gone from the movie because he was at a tech convention, and there's a couple of moments where they
No, you
cut
don't
a-
have time to do the tech
I really-
convention shit. You wasted way too much time on this recap to even get those in.
Chaos is ensuing all over town. People are dying. It's horrible. Dick Miller, who plays Mr. Futterman, and his wife, Mrs. Futterman, get bulldozed. There's a gremlin driving a bulldozer straight through their house, and it's pretty like fridge horrific when he recognizes that it's the gremlins from his fever dreams and things from World War II right before he dies. And don't be mistaken for a second, they die. The police get a call right away after that, and that's kind of what shakes them into action. They drive to the house and see Santa
it's
being...
a family movie. The police get a call that there's been an accident there.
That's right, a
No
horrible
one
accident.
is confirmed dead because it's a family movie.
You're right. But there was a horrible
I'm
accident.
pretty sure Santa is getting mauled to death and maybe on fire, but he's
police-
not confirmed dead.
Police don't care. He's like rolling the window up as Santa's like clawing, and then they like turn their head to the right and they see the old woman, the Mrs. Deagle, lives in this mansion with all these cats, and she goes down the stairs with one of the. Does it have an official name, or is it just a stair elevator? For old people.
The chair that you mount on old stairs
Yeah,
to
old
help
lady-
old people go upstairs.
Exactly. She comes all the way down, answers the door, expecting it to be carolers. She has a jug of water that she's about to throw on the carolers, but then realizes they're gremlins because
Which is a missed moment, too, because she could have thrown the water on them, and then that would have been like, oh,
A really
they
fun-
multiply because
Yeah.
water. Nope, she just drops the water.
she just drops it and runs back inside, thinking that they're demons coming for her. She's not ready. Meanwhile, another
Clutches at her
gremlin,
chest, but never even gets close to having a heart attack.
a gremlin messed with the. So there's the theme of the gremlins messing with electronics. They do kind of know some like instinctual way to mess
I
with
guess
them.
that is kind
and
of
some-
linked back to that origin.
Yeah, so it's like they hotwire to make it go impossibly fast and like pick up speed as it's going up and up and up until she flies out of the front. That's my favorite death because yeah, she's the evil one that we're supposed to go, oh good, finally. She goes flying out of her front, the top story, and then onto the floor. The cops see that, and yeah, so chaos. Kate and Billy, who are the love interest of this movie, are walking together, and Kate reveals why she doesn't like Christmas. She's always, in the first act, she was talking about, oh, you say you don't
Why?
like...
One sentence.
When Kate was a child, her father, around Christmas time, was missing, and she didn't think much of it, and one day she decided to light, after Christmas, she decided to light a fire, and then she noticed the smell. The fire department knocked down the fireplace to find not a squirrel or a crow, but her father, dressed as Santa Claus. He'd broken his neck and died instantly.
committing the dumbest thing I've ever heard of.
Of trying to actually go down an actual
His
chimney.
daughter is 16.
No, she was 9. Said when it happened, she was 9.
Fine.
Still too
9.
old. Still too old.
Also, not even fun. Like, even if just walk in through the goddamn door, it's a 9-year-old.
Exactly.
You can fool them.
Like, they're not going to go, ooh, you didn't come to the
Like,
chimney.
this is a real Darwin Award moment where we're supposed to really feel bad for her, but her dad just comes off as a massive idiot.
Yeah, it's supposed to. It's an urban legend that you've heard before. Is like, oh,
Well, it scares kids. It makes sense. Like if you're,
but it like guilts kids.
Yeah, it guilts kids into
they're
thinking
the ones
you
that
killed
believe
your parent. Oh, come on! But that's the easiest way to scare kids is telling them that they're going to kill their parents
by believing in Santa.
No,
you
man.
brought
Just in
about
general,
the death
like you can
your
think
father.
of a ton of kids' stories and like children's stories and stuff that play with that like
They're
mentality.
all cautionary
that,
tales.
Like,
It's
not
your
even
fault.
cautionary of like even Frozen is essentially a story that has to start with. Your parents are dead. Now you have to deal with that. Is the existential horror of that.
Yeah.
It's a very common trope to make kids at least intimidated or engrossed and a little bit scared.
It affected the rest
And
of her
it's good.
life.
It's not
She
a
has
bad,
to work.
It's not a bad trope to use, but it's really very common in kids and family movies to go, oh, it's your fault that your parents died. It's the fucking Lion King thing.
It's such a dark moment in this movie that's like kind of been a really even dosing of comedy and horror things, at least horror imagery. Lots of just comedy, though.
Absolutely no reason for it either.
And it comes off as like, I don't know if it's supposed to be funny or not, or if it's just supposed to be dark, because I take it as dark, but you snark at it, and I feel like, yeah, there is kind of something silly about it. This horrific thing.
Yeah,
it kind of colors the movie in a perfect way of like, it's a dark family comedy. And in that moment, it's like, it encapsulates the movie for me.
It does.
It's like,
I would agree.
I don't know whether to be super happy or super freaked out about this. Because, yeah, the chaos in town is pretty, like, we don't see people, getting eviscerated or things, but people are running. There's gremlins on their heads. It's established early on that their claws are really sharp, and they can claw your face or your chest or all kinds of things. Not enough to, like, permanently kill you, but, yeah, anyway, so as chaos is crazy, they're in the bar. Well, I skipped over that, but Kate was serving them at the bar.
For like a 10-minute scene of just
oh my God, that whole
beyond
scene
stupidity.
was on and
the
on
whole
and
movie
on and
just
on.
does that over and over. It's just scenes of a bunch of puppets doing wacky shit. Where
Gizmo's
it's like,
on the dartboard.
oh, what if one was smoking like 6 cigarettes? Oh, what if like 2 of them hit beer glasses together and they broke?
What if one of them had
one
puppets?
like turned around and like fell off the table? Ha 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 ha!
What if
my
one
God,
shot
it's
the
so
other?
fucking tedious after a while. It's just puppeteers jerking each other off to some extent. It was very, very boring.
So we're ramping up to the end for no reason. All of the gremlins, literally all of them, have congregated in a movie theater. They don't know that the movie's playing. They're just hanging out eating popcorn in the movie theater. Stripe sees a candy shop across the street, so he's not in the movie theater when Billy and Kate set the place on fire. I guess all of the gremlins in there burn to death, die from either the heat or the light or both, but it's implied that took care of the most of them. Now Stripe is the only one alive in... It's not a candy store. It's like a hardware store.
It's a department store. They just say department store,
Okay.
but the whole window display is candy and stuffed animals.
Yeah, but you go in...
It's Christmas time, so that makes perfect sense.
I
that
guess
you'd
so.
waste your... No, it doesn't. I'm being sarcastic. Who the fuck wastes window displays on candies and stuffed animals during Christmas? You push your expensive and holiday branded crap.
Did you work in things
Nothing
like
with
that?
nothing with a window display, but just
Okay.
generally, that does not make any sense to me. That middle of December, you have what looks like Valentine's Day garbage in your window.
That's another thing, is the movie takes place in Christmas time, but this came out in June. So it was like a Christmas in the summer kind of feeling, which is
It's not
weird
even
now
near
that you mentioned that.
Halloween. What a weird release time. I guess just summer movie, just popcorn movie.
So in the candy store / department store, Billy and Kate share their only kiss of the movie for luck or whatever. It's always some shoehorn thing. And we get some shots of Stripe crawling around the stuffed animals. There's a stuffed E.T. There's a stuffed Bugs Bunny. But anyway, final fight. Stripe finds a fountain, and he's like threatening to jump into it. Like Billy's, his hand's already getting wet. But here's the thing that it takes. He puts one finger in it, and that starts the process. And we're like, oh no, it's going to happen all over again. What are we going to do? Gizmo shows up in an RC car.
That he's been driving for the last 5 goddamn minutes.
Swerving
We've had to
around.
see a literally like puppet of just stuffed animal quality, driving around in a fake RC car.
Like drifting.
Oh my god, it's so tedious.
Yeah,
it's the most Home Alone bullshit garbage of just...
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god. First of all, it's just not that entertaining. They don't even shoot it in a fun way where it's like, oh, look at the trick or something he's doing. It's just a stuffed animal in a car that's driving around a dark room.
Point A, point B. Point B being a curtain rod or drape, like... Pull string. He flies the car up off of a shovel as a ramp, grabs the pull string, and opens up the... Oh.
Don't forget the car explodes.
Does it?
It explodes in the background.
Oh, that's right.
He
doesn't
explode.
That's right. He doesn't make it. He stays in the car crash, and you think like, oh no, what happened? But he's fine because he's apparently immortal. Then he grabs the drawstring, flies up to the ceiling, bonks his head, and the blinds open up, shedding light on Stripe mid multiplication, and so he starts like bubbling up in a really gross way, and like his eyes are falling out.
Ark of the Covenant,
skin
basically.
Is falling off. It's a really cool effect. And then he falls into the fountain, and we assume he's dead. Rand Peltzer shows up just in time to see this. The dad, Kate's there to hug Billy, and we're like, oh, it's over. But then Spike comes out for one last scare, and he's this gross skeleton that looks like it's still breathing somehow before it turns into just a puddle of goo that Barney considers eating, and then it's like, nah, I don't want this, and he leaves. And then what's the final? Oh, that's right. So final scene. The town is in ravages. The news is throwing it up to mass hysteria, and the grandfather, the old man who quote-unquote sold the Mogwai to Rand, shows up, just like appears in their house, and gives him back the money.
Also, I don't know if they put him on stilts or shoes, but he's like 7 feet tall.
Is he really tall?
Well, it's noticeable because they frame him in the center, and he's just sort of a tall guy. But he's also supposed to be like this Chinese shopkeeper, so it's even stranger that he's like taller than everyone else in the scene. But
I like that he has no accent.
I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just a tall guy they cast.
I like that he has no accent, but he just keeps hammering home, "Ayah! Oh, you have no responsibility. You have no responsibility. Ayah!" It's like what it sounds like, which I guess is good. You don't want it to be racist. I don't know. So he takes the thing away, says, "You're not ready. You're not ready. But someday you might be, but you're not ready." I don't know if he means like people or Billy in specific.
It's people. He means humanity.
He means humanity's not yet ready. And he leaves, and they give you one final thing. So it's like, always remember, you never know that there might be a creature crawling around your house. And if you do find it, don't let it get in light. Don't get it wet. And never, ever feed it after midnight. Because you never know when you might have a gremlin. La 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 la. And then the movie ends. So that's the movie of Gremlins. I really like it.
I don't know why.
I think it's fun. So I think that was a good recap in that we kind of touched on the like things that I wanted to get into, which is kind of the themes. You already touched on the small town idea of like I want to talk more about that. Like typically in small towns, rumor spreads really fast. People gossip about each other. There are usually like small town urban legends and explanations for the unexplainable. It's sometimes associated with, not as highly educated people who don't, I don't know. It's always like they're the backwater or they're the small town.
Yeah, but
whatever.
This isn't really classic backwater. Because, well, first of all, it's not set in the South, so it's not classic backwater.
I guess I was searching for the wrong word. You're right, yeah.
No, I'm just mean, like, generally I don't disagree with the fact that they portray it as, like, a small town. It's just sort of a different small town. You were more on the nose with the Norman Rockwell kind of small town, where it's idyllic New England. It's not
nothing goes wrong there,
Georgia.
It seems. Yeah. It doesn't seem like there are ever any robberies. There's never any, like, you know.
There's 2 police.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean,
that we see.
I hope there's not a lot of robberies.
But so what does that speak to, like, the idea of the movie? Small town ideas and this unknowable, unstoppable infestation, essentially. Invasion, infestation, whatever you want to call it, but I'm
not sure there's a linkage between those themes. I think it's just a lazy, easy setting that connects easily with your viewers without causing any real problem. I think it's not a city, so it's not urban too much. It's not country. It's not like anyone can kind of relate to, like, oh, you have a house and you've been to a bank. Like, it doesn't have anything in its setting that is distinct or it would pull you out of just putting yourself in that very milquetoast situation.
Yeah, there's really no establishing line of like, well, this is a tradition that we always do. Like, there's not
a hyper religious town. It's not like there's American values. Even it's not even like the racist guy is portrayed like as common or anything. Like, it's just sort of a really uncharacterized small town America in the Northeast.
If anything, it just gives credence to why...
sorry. It's in the Northeast, but everyone has their Californian accents, of course.
It's because it was filmed a lot in Universal Studios but yeah. Which is interesting because it's Warner Brothers distributed, but it was filmed on Universal Studios lot. I don't know how that relationship works. But maybe the small town stuff just kind of speaks to why these, like, you know, kids and adults all work together and for each other and with each other, and everyone in town knows each other.
It's just a lazy framing device to just kind of make, oh, that's why she can just go over to the neighbor's house because it's a small town.
But why wouldn't anyone
that's why he knows where she works. It's just a small town.
Yeah.
That's why you can just wander into the police station. It's a small town.
That's why Mrs. Deagle is a popular... Everyone in town knows her.
Yeah, she's just the known antagonist. It's a small town.
Do you think that enhances the movie? Do you think this would have been better?
It's lazy as shit.
I know. So do you think it would have been better if it was in a metropolitan area or even a city?
No, because it's not a movie that's supposed to be good in that way.
Okay.
And I don't mean that like it's like, oh, it's going to be bad. I mean more of like, it's not looking to create a unique, imaginative setting. It's looking to create a palatable, family fun movie.
Yeah.
In which case, this is the correct setting to do.
Shots.
I think it's boring and lazy, but it's the right setting for when you're making this movie.
You're right. It immerses the audience that you wanted, which is American family moviegoers. So this movie is a black comedy.
Unlike Home Alone. Sorry, Home Alone, the movie where one man can apparently afford a 900-room mansion where his child can stay and they don't even notice while the rest of their family shoot off 500 airplane seat. Oh my god.
They have like 13 kids.
That entire family just drives me batshit insane. Like, he must have inherited so many trust funds to afford that house and take yearly vacations with his garbage family.
Yeah, seriously.
Oh my god.
Yeah. To these like amazing destinations.
Yeah. Like, oh, me and the 14 in-laws are going to Hawaii. Oh, that whole movie, that whole series.
Yeah, so this is a black comedy, and I feel like some of the black kind of comes out in Kate's character, who hates the holidays, and Billy just like can't even fathom of a reason why someone might be unhappy during the holiday season.
Billy can't fathom an emotion the entire fucking movie. I'm pretty
the
sure
only thing he could do is
he doesn't
interest.
even react to her dad like crippling and dying in a fucking chimney. He's like, he just looks at her confused.
He's not really listening. He's like investigating things around the area while she's telling that. Gizmo is focusing more on her, if anything. Yeah, so like depression on the holidays is touched on a little bit in like Kate's thing. And
but that's so. Sorry, it is.
So
I'm
small.
sorry to interrupt, but it's so unrealistically depicted. As the only excuse you have to be depressed on the holidays is if your dad died in your chimney.
It has
Otherwise,
to be huge.
Fuck you. Enjoy Christmas.
Yeah. Otherwise, what are you so sad about?
Like,
yeah.
even then the movie treats her like she's still a little weird.
Yeah.
She should still just get with the program.
In Christmas Town, where everyone loves Christmas and everyone's income is based on
everyone
how many
loves
trees
Christmas,
they sell.
except everyone has garbage Christmas decorations, so there's no Christmas decorations in the entire town, and I don't think I heard a single fucking Merry Christmas the entire movie. But, you know, Christmas.
So, I mean, instances of black comedy are abound with the Gremlins themselves. I don't know if there's that much black comedy before the Gremlins
there's no black
show
comedy. It's just spilling popcorn and spitting out beer is not black comedy. It's slapstick.
It's in like the way the mom. I think it's like in the way the mom handles the Gremlins. Like that's kind of
she blenders one. Like I guess that's dark comedy, sort of. Like that is
like the
microwave one is dark comedy.
And
I would
Kate
agree with
serving them still is kind of comedic in the.
But that's slapstick. It's not dark comedy. There's nothing dark about her serving them fucking beers full of foam at a bar for 20 minutes.
Is there one instance of something that you could think, oh, this is black comedy?
Oh, the old lady flying out a window and dying is pretty
like
black comedy.
Yeah,
but,
that's pretty on the nose. Yeah,
I'm just arguing that the Gremlins are more slapstick than black comedy.
Oh, and like the Gremlins singing the
if they
Hi
were
Ho
like
song.
torturing anyone, maybe there's black comedy there, but they don't even do that. They're really not that menacing.
Yeah, like if they were torturing them in a silly way, but the dude was still dying.
Yeah,
that's the thing. This stays PG-13. You never see.
This stays PG. There's
is
nothing
it PG?
PG-13.
Is it
in
really
here.
PG?
I don't know what it's rated, but what the hell would make it a 13? Think about how old you were when you saw it then.
I don't know. I'm just trying
Would your parents have let you watch a PG-13 movie?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that because Steven Spielberg actually had a hand in the MPAA at the time, and this was one of the first movies that pushed for the PG-13 rating despite what the MPAA said. Gremlins was a commercial success and received positive reviews, but the film was also heavily criticized for some of its more violent sequences. In response to this and similar complaints about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, specifically monkey brains, Spielberg suggested that the MPAA alter its rating system, which it did within 2 months of this movie releasing. I missed my spot.
So it released as a PG and then was upgraded to a PG-13 in later releases.
Along with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, also rated PG, Gremlins was one of 2 films in '84 to influence the MPAA to create the PG-13 rating. So there's definitely a theme of responsibility in this film and being given something that, you may or may not understand the ramifications of.
Yeah, like that lady at her house in the very beginning and the fact that the bank's going to take it. She was not responsible enough to deserve that house.
Yes. What are some other... Yeah. Or or Kate, who has to work 2 jobs.
She was not responsible enough to have a father.
Yeah, there's an overarching theme.
Or her dad, who was his dad.
He was not responsible enough
to have a career.
Oh yeah, the inventor dad. So now that we've done with the recap, can I talk about that one scene in the tech conference?
Yeah.
So the dad is an inventor, and we see him at a tech conference where there's like Robbie the robot or whatever that character's thing is from Lost in Space. There's Steven Spielberg running around on a recumbent bicycle in his cameo, and in the background, the dad is on the phone, and there's what looks like it literally looks like
it's the
H.G. Wells time machine,
yeah.
and there's a guy sitting in it. We cut back to the mom who's on the other end of the line talking to him. We cut back to the dad. The time machine is gone, and there are people like next to it going like, whoa, where is it? It's like an airplane level sight gag in the background of this horror movie. So anyway, I just want to touch on that. So the theme of responsibility is, it's a big responsibility to have a mogwai, obviously, but it's also a big responsibility to have your own job and to be responsible for making the bacon when your dad is a deadbeat inventor and apparently your whole family doesn't have the balls to tell him to get a real job. What other responsibility things come up? I'm drawing a blank here. It feels like a big theme, but where else does it come up?
Yeah, I mean, there's not that many real teaching moments. Like, he has problems with his car, but those just fix when the plot needs them to. That's not relevant. He has a dog that he only takes care of when it's relevant and just shoves it off on his dad when it's not. He's not even remotely responsible with that dog either, by the way. He brings it to the fucking bank and stuff. So it's like, I agree that responsibility is a theme here, but I might almost just argue that irresponsibility is really the theme. Is that almost everyone in this movie acts irresponsibly.
And they're punished for it.
Except the old Chinese guy, I guess. But even he acts irresponsibly
he should be more responsible with
by
his
watching
grandson.
his stupid grandson better. Like, you have a world-ending monster, and you just let this 8-year-old carry it around into the alley because you were, what, upstairs?
Yeah. So that's what I want to talk about is the Mogwai and how we think they exist, like just the mythos of it. And this is why I love watching these movies. So to me, the Mogwai have to be like an ancient weapon. I'm thinking that they were like an ancient Chinese dynasty.
No, but see, a weapon presupposes invention.
It makes me no. It makes
you think
me
someone bioengineered them?
Well, okay. So what I believe, based on nothing, is that they had to have been manifested by like a trickster god. Whether you want to say the writer is the trickster god,
I'm not going to argue. That's fine.
And so from that, I believe there is one Mogwai. This stupid 10,001 or whatever. I think Gizmo is the only one. And so in ancient Chinese dynasty, this is simply headcanon. I believe that like if a warlord wanted to conquer China, he would send them a gift. It's like a Trojan horse.
You know what's strange here? You're attaching China to this just because a Chinese guy happens to own the one at
and
this
Mogwai
exact moment.
is a Chinese word.
Because a Chinese guy's owning this one. What the fuck would he call it? He's Chinese.
Well, it's my headcanon.
He's not going to call it a Dutch word for gremlin.
Well, I can't wait to hear what your headcanon says.
I'm just saying, your headcanon's fine. It could be older than China.
I think... This is the first documented instance of Mogwai that was lost when the Library of Alexandria burned down. So it was a Trojan horse. You would send it as a gift, and people would accept it, and you wouldn't tell them the rules. Maybe you tell them about the light so it didn't die instantly. But and so I think, in my mind, the goal is you would give it to a place.
That first generation where they worked in other rules, people just keep opening them in their courtyard and they just fucking die.
Instantly,
poof. Why aren't our weapons working?
Or instantly melt.
Yeah.
So I think they would send them there. They would feed them. They would feed them after midnight. They would get them wet. They would do all these things, and it would just destroy it from the inside out. Flash forward to World War II, the Germans somehow discovered Mogwai, and instead of sending them as Trojan horses, realized, well, we can just send the Gremlins in as things, and maybe that was real, maybe that wasn't. Fun headcanon.
Go ahead.
But I like to think that all of them, are killed every time. If they were in China, then either the dynasty itself survives it, or the incoming new thing comes in.
It's not really that hard to kill them.
No, you just wait till morning.
But the problem is, and why almost any explanation for their existence instantly falls apart, is how fast they reproduce, unless there's a constraint. Like, in this generation, we see Gizmo's first generation, then Spike is second generation, then we see third generations made from Spike. If there's some, third generations can't reproduce anymore, then, okay, maybe this makes sense. But otherwise...
Take over the world.
All that happens is one rainstorm while one is outside. It's not even, a difficult thing to imagine.
No.
And nothing would stop the endless reproduction. Nothing. It would just keep making new ones forever.
The rules make no sense for that reason. There's light everywhere. There's water everywhere. And when is after midnight? I feel like these things are just a time bomb.
If you feed it at 6 a.m., is that after midnight? 4:30? 3:30? 2:30?
Which leads us
1:30 is clearly after midnight.
Which leads us to the big question. Why is Gizmo allowed to live?
Immortality.
He has to be.
Only exemption.
He has to be.
Because otherwise, again, irresponsibility, that Chinese guy's really irresponsible because he should just kill it.
Yeah, so is he keeping it in that lockbox
forever? There is an argument that it's sentient and self-aware and intelligent.
It absolutely is an argument.
Kill it.
It 100% is.
Well, it's an argument that it deserves to live because of those things.
Oh.
That even though it presents a massive danger, you shouldn't just kill it because it presents a danger.
Do you think there is some kind of message about reliance on electronics and technology and those things? Because that's kind of what the ending
there totally is. Just
about,
there is about foreign fucking cars in there, because it's an 80s movie, and technology is the thing that scares the adults.
Huh.
Your parents dying is the thing that scares the kids.
But in 84, new technologies.
Foreign things?
New foreign technologies.
And technologies. Small town America. Oh, so scared. Technology is going to put us all out of business.
Seriously, that's the one
I'm
thing
being
that gets
hyperbolic
hammered.
Because it is treated with about that much care or attention here. It's just, isn't technology kind of scary? But you know what's weird is it's the mid 80s, and I don't think I even saw anything more high tech than a push button phone.
It's kind of hard because every time they show the house with all the weird technology things, I feel like I'm watching Back to the Future 2 with all the fancy, instant pizza and all that.
Yeah, all the weird, Doc Brown-esque level inventions.
Yeah. I think that was about it as far as themes. Oh, there's the obvious, just family, just blanket family movie themes of,
They do a bad job with that family matters in this one. For a family movie, family did not matter at all.
The dad isn't there. The mom is on her own. Billy is completely checked out.
The mom basically saves herself and then just gets checked out of the scene. Mm-hmm. And so it's not even they work together to save each other.
Dad instigates the whole movie, leaves, comes back to see it done. Yeah. Dad's the one that...
Family is pretty irrelevant to this film.
And then the kid, Billy, is the least responsible person. He breaks every single rule.
Not intentionally.
And, brags about it half the time.
The only rule he breaks intentionally is to not get it wet. Because he just totally pours water on Gizmo for the high school teacher.
You're right.
No fucking attention to the rules there. The other ones were all accidents or unintentional. That one, he just goes, oh, fuck it. I'll just do it.
So something I want to start doing on this show is talk about what happens after the movie's over. There are no police in town. Half of the most important people in town are dead.
We only know one person. I guess
Mrs. Deagle, the cops.
Well, the cops aren't dead.
The cops
are
dead.
They drove away.
No, the cops are dead. That happens. The Gremlins get inside the car and they're like, whoa, and they swerve and they die. That I mentioned that during the movie. We were like, well, the entire police force
they were
is gone.
pretty fucking incompetent.
They
so
were.
I guess
So
we'll
there's
just
no
hire
cops.
some new cops.
The most the real estate person in town is dead. News is all over the place on this town now. So maybe there will be some more like tourism or something. But what do you think happens after this now?
Nothing.
What happens to the Peltzers? Does it ever get back that it was them?
Then no one's going to believe. I mean, you can't take it seriously because everyone in that town would be dismissed as an insane person.
And that's it. It would just be buried into an urban legend. No, and no one would care
it would
again?
never work because no one would buy that every single person in this town went insane with the same story. That would be a national story for a long fucking time. Even if you believed it's hysteria, the idea that 100+ people
believe they
fall into the same hysteria and with physical evidence that completely backs up. Like, there's fucking security cameras.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, there's no active suppression.
She was taking Polaroids?
Yeah, Jesus Christ, that's right there. Like, she takes a ton of Polaroid pictures of them.
So there's physical proof.
There's tons of physical proof. So
there's probably going to be bones in the fire. And
at best, they could... And plus, like, there still is a living Mogwai. Like, they don't have it anymore, but... Yeah, so it's like, it probably will get back to the Peltzers, but I mean, what would that...
And they'll get
no one will believe
murdered,
them.
lynched? Oh, okay.
Like, it's just everything...
Because that's what I'm wondering.
Nothing goes anywhere with it because it just doesn't make any sense.
That's what I mean. Do you think the people in town would, like, convince themselves that it didn't happen, or they must have been hysterical?
No. I think they would just bury it? I think they'd spend the next 5 years trying to tell their story to anyone who listens.
And they would be called crazy everywhere they go.
No, they wouldn't, because they have physical evidence of it.
That's right. So this would break the world.
Yes. This isn't, like, going to just disappear after, like, the news reports at the end of this movie make it seem like, oh, and everyone just moved on. No. Who the fuck would move on from a new species of creature that you've never seen before? Imagine you are the only person in this town with any scrap of curiosity. You still saw all this happen. Yeah. You're still going to go somewhere with it. Just because every main character we've seen is a fucking wet blanket with no interest in the world around them.
It might put Rand Peltzer on the map as an inventor. It might get him some attention somehow. Or maybe just thrown into an insane asylum.
It just doesn't... It can't happen. It would just be an endless story. People would be digging into this. There's no way that this news would just wash its hands of a small town devolving into chaos with credible, repeated reports of monsters and dead bodies everywhere. Kyle, people are dead. They're reporting on it like it was after a sports game riot is the way they're reporting on it. Like,
or like
some people did some really bad, like, some stupid things. There's a dead woman in the fucking street, and they're reporting about it like some trash cans got blown over.
So you believe that, this would change not just the small town, not just the Peltzers' lives, but the entire world now knowing that there, at least at some point, was a supernatural...
Do you think the government's not going to try to militarize that shit now?
So they're going to go to the Peltzers and go, what do you know? Who did you talk to? Where did you get this?
They're getting Guantanamo'd tomorrow.
Oh my God, you're so right. There's some horror there. I want to see that.
Those fuckers aren't going to just have a nice, happy life. They're gone into government custody forever.
They're done. Say goodbye. One thing that I read that was interesting, before we get to the rating, apparently the crew hated the Gizmo puppets. They were really hard to manipulate, really hard to make look cute on camera. So the scene of Gizmo on the dartboard getting thrown darts at was, the crew asked for that. They were like, can we torture Gizmo in a scene? And they put him in, because, the crew hated manipulating and working with Gizmo. And the last thing, I forgot how popular this story is, that they wanted monkeys to be the Gremlins, but early tests didn't work because the monkeys were just absolutely hysterical when they were forced to wear Gremlins heads and masks and things. God, Hollywood just wanting to do. But there is early screen tests of a monkey as a gremlin, and it looks weird,
It'd be good, like, for the motion, but you probably could never make the animal behave or not be scared.
And then finally, I mentioned that that Frank Welker plays one of the... I'm sorry, I mentioned that Howie Mandel plays Gizmo, but Frank Welker, famous for Megatron, plays Spike. Basically, all he says is, yum, yum. Let's hear your best Spike. Yum.
That was it. That was me. I did it just there.
Or how about Gizmo? You don't want to do either. Okay, all right. So.
No, I was waiting for you to do that one for me too, so I could just claim credit for both.
That's Gizmo. So that is the movie of Gremlins from 1984. We're getting to my favorite part of the podcast, where we talk about the rating, what we thought about the movies. We live to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5 thumbs, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, on whatever criteria we want. Derek, what'd you think of this movie?
I mean,
You have to go
it's not
first.
for
I have to go
me.
second.
It's not for me. It's an old family movie. You want between 1 and 5 for me watching it now?
Yeah, but I want your honest opinion on it to reflect maybe listeners
because
who agree
if you
with
want
you.
to see it, it's like a 3-star movie. I'd give it a 3 stars if I was giving it a critical review, but I'm going to give it like 1 for me because it's just maybe 2. I guess 2 is fair.
Like, imagine if you were telling this to someone like at dinner, and I'm going like, "Oh, it's
I
so
would
great."
never recommend this movie to
Yeah,
anyone.
okay,
I
then,
would
yeah.
never tell someone to go out and watch this
Okay.
because it is old, it is stupid, and it's bad at this point. Like, it has very little redeeming reasons why you should go out. Go watch E.T. It's a similar fucking story, but it's way better. And even it's bad. So it's like...
You think E.T. is bad?
Tell me why E.T. is good.
I love E.T. It's slow, but it's fun. I haven't seen it in a long
It's a
time.
giant fucking product commercial for Reese's Pieces. I hate that movie.
How many thumbs did you say?
Wait, they're thumbs? I thought we were giving it stars. Oh,
No, it's always
they're
thumbs.
Okay.
1 to 5 thumbs.
I'll still give it 2 because it is... If you're like trying to entertain an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, you could do worse than this. But I would never tell someone to go out and watch this movie.
I would give it to a 10-year-old. I think an 8-year-old might be kind of young. I wouldn't want to give him nightmares. Oh, at this point? I don't know.
I don't think so. I mean, it's all so fucking hokey. An 8-year-old knows those are puppets.
And who do those thumbs belong to? Typically on the Gory Days, we like to give our thumbs to characters from the film.
Probably the bank manager who exists for one scene. The bank manager who comes in, admonishes Billy for bringing his dog to work, but then
Lets him go early.
lets him go home early, doesn't fire him because one of the other customers, played by Judge Reinhold, like schmoozes the bank owner into not firing him. Yeah, so that worthless side character represents my feelings about the movie.
The bank manager. Both thumbs?
2 thumbs.
Okay.
And you? And you?
What about me?
No, nothing. Just...
Well, that's it on the Gory Days. Oh, you mean what did I think of the movie? Gremlins, 1984. It's got a lot of Steven Spielberg feel to it. It's got that family...
You're right, it is old-fashioned feeling.
Steven Spielberg feel to it. Like, Steven Spielberg is still making movies. He just came out with Ready Player One, and it still has that Steven Spielberg feel to it. I feel like if I were to watch Schindler's List today, it would have that Steven Spielberg feel to it. Didn't he do that? He did Saving Private Ryan, at least. I think he also did Schindler's List.
I know, just play by the comedy rules. You never go.
It's a film. Lots of red.
Don't make Holocaust jokes.
It's not a Holocaust joke. The film is it's chroma keyed, so like most of it is
No,
gray.
I just mean like don't even bring up Schindler's List in the sense of comedy.
Gremlins, 1984. Feels so much like a family movie, and it's got these graphic horror things. I already overplayed my hand at the beginning when I said that I love this movie. I love the theme song whenever it plays. I love the Mogwai theme. I think the horror elements are perfectly balanced with the comedy stuff. Even though the horror isn't that scary, it still serves the movie's purpose. There's a lot of characters, but the ones that are important all have direction. Billy is not a good actor by any stretch of the eyebrows, but he still comes off as being naive, which is what he's supposed to be.
They do act like human beings.
Yes.
Would in most. No, that's not. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
Never mind.
They're experiencing like a
They
gas leak.
literally never react the way a human being would react to anything that happens.
Every time something
I take that
horrible
entirely
happens, they react like it's nothing, or like it's a breeze or a dog barking in the distance. So realism, like I said, doesn't need to exist. It feels like a fairy tale, kind of. It's got its own like cautionary tale and all of that. That being said, I would give the... Man, I was thinking about this when I was walking into the studio. I was like, do I want to give this 5 thumbs? Is this a 5-thumb movie? And the answer is no, because this is the Gory Days. And while it did have those horror elements, that's not what we appreciate as much in this as far as our scales go. So I am going to give it 4 thumbs.
And who do those thumbs belong to?
I want to give all 4 of those thumbs to... I was going to try to give all 4 of them to the dog, but I realized dogs don't have 4 thumbs. They have 2 dew claws. So instead, I'm going to give 1 thumb to Stripe, the leader of the band, 1 thumb to Gizmo, on drums, one thumb to Pete, played by Corey Feldman, on the keys, and one thumb to...
Ironically, Gizmo's the one who plays a keyboard. But
That's right.
he can be on drums too, I guess.
And I'll give the last thumb to Murray Futterman, Dick Miller, the alcoholic guy who hates foreigners. I love that guy, Dick Miller. Wherever he shows up,
It's
I
not
love
fair to
putting
call
him
him an alcoholic just because he's drinking at a bar till it closes.
That's true. He does not drive after that. They convince him to walk home. So
And I
guess
mean, just because you're a regular at a bar doesn't mean you're an alcoholic.
and he's not drinking at home when he's watching TV and the thing Fritz is out.
Yeah.
So, well, that's it for Gremlins 1984 on the Gory Days. Don't forget, if you want to hear your thoughts or anything read on here, give us a tweet or a comment or anything on Instagram or Twitter at the Gory Days. Any final words, Derek?
Stay scary out there.
Stay still. You beat me to it.
The Gory Days.